In the first fight, we have Niko Price versus Jacobe Smith. The knockout artist versus the UFC vet never backs down from a firefight. Niko Price is 35 years old, 16-8, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, coming off a decision loss 8 months ago. He lands 5.21 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 5.58, has a 54% finish rate, and is a plus 900 underdog. Jacobe Smith is 29 years old, 10-0, coming off a TKO win 5 months ago. He lands 7.34 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 1.97, has an 80% finish rate, and is a minus 1,600 favorite. Niko Price has been in the UFC for quite some time now. He's been in there with almost everybody at welterweight. This would be Jacobe Smith's second fight in the UFC. He's a grappler with very high output and a very high pace. Price will enjoy a 4-inch reach advantage, and I think that can give Smith some issues in this fight early. Jacobe Smith will need to get to his wrestling early, or Niko Price will get into the fight and get very comfortable and make things very difficult for him. I think Smith will get a takedown early in the fight. Price's takedown defense is only 53%. Once he gets that initial takedown, I think Smith will start to control Price and just pretty much just grind him down. Niko Price has only won 3 of his last 10 fights. Give me Jacobe Smith to get it in this one. What's up, everybody? Crossover MMA back in here for another video. Now let's get back into UFC 317. In the next fight, we have Jhonata Diniz versus Alvin Hines. Heavyweight sluggers with bricks for hands. Jhonata Diniz is 33 years old, 8-1, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, coming off a TKO loss 7 months ago. He lands 3.36 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2.96, he has a 78% finish rate, and he's a minus 215 favorite. Alvin Hines is 33 years old, 7-0, come off a TKO win 2 months ago. He has an 86% finish rate and is a plus 165 underdog. Alvin Hines will be taking this fight on short notice. He'll be making his UFC debut off of LFA. Diniz is a heavyweight kickboxer with big power. Hines has some submission wins on his resume, and I think a clear path for victory for him is getting Diniz on the ground and just look to beat him up. We saw in his last fight against Marcin Tybura that he got taken down. He got beaten up badly. Couldn't really offer up much off his back and had no ability to get back to his feet. I'm not sure if Hines will get it to the ground, but it's there for him if he's able to do it. Diniz looks to walk his opponents down, land a big power shot on the feed, and I think these guys are going to exchange. Diniz will land the cleaner shots and hurt Hines. Give me Jhonata Diniz in this one. In the next fight, we have Sedriques Dumas versus Jackson McVey. Sedriques Dumas is 29 years old, 10-3, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off a TKO loss 2 months ago. He lands 2.1 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2.5. He has a 46% finish rate. Jackson McVey is 26 years old, 6-0, come off a TKO win 1 week ago, and he has a 100% finish rate. Both men will be taking this fight on short notice. It literally just got announced a few days ago. Dumas opened as a favorite, but it's now a pick'em. Dumas didn't really look engaged in his last fight against Michel Oliveira and didn't really look like he wanted to be in there. Dumas is a long, rangy striker, doesn't have much power in his hands, and it can be tough to figure out his game plan in fights. Seeing him get destroyed by Michel Oliveira just didn't look good at all. I'm going to take a complete shot in the dark and go with Jackson McVey here. The 100% finish rate makes it clear he's a finisher. I think Dumas does better against guys that allow him to get comfortable in the fight. I just don't think that's what Jackson McVey's mindset is going to be in this situation. So give me McVey in his UFC debut. In the next fight, we have Terrence McKinney versus Viacheslav Borshchev. Lightweight chaos guaranteed. Both men hunt first-round finishers. Terrence McKinney's 30 years old, 16-7. 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off a TKO win 4 months ago. He lands 5.91 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2.59. He has a 70% finish rate and is a minus 200 favorite. Viacheslav Borshchev is 33 years old, 8-5-1, 2-2-1 in his last 5 fights, coming off a decision loss 4 months ago. He lands 5.25 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 4.77. He has a 43% finish rate and is a plus 154 underdog. We have an interesting matchup right here. Borshchev is a striker, and McKinney mixes things up with the striking and the wrestling. Both guys' best win is multiple years ago. Borshchev beat Chris Duncan in 2021, and McKinney beat Faraz Ziem in 2022. Since then, neither guy has had an impressive win over a quality opponent. Borshchev's Achilles heel is of getting taken down and controlled has showed itself time and time again in his fights. He's gotten better, but it's still there and something he's definitely still working on. McKinney's kill or be killed style has worked against lower quality opponents and gotten him finished whenever he stepped up in competition. This one is tricky as both men are high output. I do think McKinney has a bit more power in his hands. The difference in this matchup for me is McKinney's grappling. He lands 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. For me, this fight comes down to Terrence McKinney's fight. If he fights smart and goes after Borshchev's weakness, I think McKinney gets it done. So with that being said, give me Terrence McKinney. In the next fight, we have Viviane Araujo versus Tracy Cortez. Flyweight chess match with top 10 implications. Viviane Araujo is 38 years old, 13-6, 2-3 in her last 5 fights, come off a decision win 7 months ago. She lands 4.04 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 4.87. She has a 37% finish rate and is a plus 195 underdog. Tracy Cortez is 31 years old, 11-2, 4-1 in her last 5 fights, coming off a decision loss 11 months ago. She lands 3.72 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.02. She has a 15% finish rate and is a minus 238 favorite. Tracy Cortez is making her return to the octagon after almost a year away after her loss to Rose Namajunas. Viviane Araujo is a UFC vet, winning and losing with no consistency of stringing wins together. Cortez was on a long win streak before that loss to Rose. Araujo uses a bit more output than Cortez and will enjoy a 2-inch reach advantage. Cortez does mix it up, uses a bit more grappling, so I can see this fight having a little bit of everything. I think the time off will do Cortez well to regroup and make the necessary changes to her game and just get in the right place mentally. Araujo being 38 at strawweight is tough, so I'm going to go with Tracy Cortez to get it done. In the next fight, we have Hyder Amil versus Jose Miguel Delgado. Exciting featherweights collide in a striker versus grappler showdown. Hyder Amil is 35 years old, 11-0, coming off a TKO win 4 months ago. He lands 6.84 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 4, has a 64% finish rate, and is a plus 110 underdog. Jose Miguel Delgado is 27 years old, 9-1, 5-0 in his last 5 fights, come off a submission win 3 months ago. He lands 6.5 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2.88, has a 90% finish rate, and is a minus 140 favorite. This featherweight scrap should be fireworks. Hyder Amil always brings it in fights, and Jose Delgado does as well. This is some really good matchmaking and is a sneaky contender for fight of the night. Hyder Amil is a pressure fighter with high output, landing almost 7 significant strikes per minute. Delgado is also a high output fighter, landing 6.5 significant strikes per minute. Delgado uses a lot more grappling and as well, landing almost 5 takedowns per 15 minutes versus Amil's 81% takedown defense. I'm really excited for this fight to see who can impose their will on the other fighter. Delgado will enjoy a 3-inch reach advantage and a 2-inch height advantage. Amil's very accustomed to being a smaller man and just walks forward. Delgado will have to stand his ground and not allow Amil to just walk him down. If not, Amil would just overwhelm him, get him backed up against the cage. If Delgado stands his ground and gets some respect early, then look for him to implement his wrestling game. I just see this being a back and forth fight. Amil is an absolute dog, isn't afraid to take a shot, to land a shot. I think both men will have success and land some shots. This is a tough one and really a coin flip fight for me. I know 2025 hasn't been the best year for undefeated fighters, but Amil already has a win under his belt in 2025. This is a really tough pick. I really like both fighters, but I'm going to take the underdog and go with Hyder Amil right here. I just like the slightly more experience and having a really tough fight in this last one against William Gomez. In the next fight, we have Jack Hermansson versus Gregory RoboCop Rodrigues. Middleweight violence, one punch can end it at any time. Jack Hermansson is 37 years old, 24-8, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off of decision wins 16 months ago. He lands 5.09 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.69, has a 53% finish rate, and is a plus 160 underdog. Gregory Rodrigues is 33 years old, 16-6, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off a TKO loss 4 months ago. He lands 5.6 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 4.95, is a 59% finish rate, and is a minus 192 favorite. Jack Hermansson is returning after a very long layoff, basically a year and a half. and honestly was one of his best fights ever. He just put on a masterclass against Joe Pyfer. Hermansson showed really good footwork, really high fight IQ, and he'll need to use both those in this matchup versus RoboCop. RoboCop is a long, powerful striker with big power in his hands. He's definitely a plotter, doesn't move around very much, and is very planted on his feet. I think it'll be smart for Hermansson to use some low kicks, lots of movement, the footwork, just to make RoboCop resets each and every time in his stance. RoboCop doesn't have much head movement as well, and that's what gets him into trouble in some of his fights. I think RoboCop will have to cut off Hermansson from circling around the octagon and just look to walk him down. RoboCop will also need to use some head movement and also not get frustrated by the movement by Hermansson. Once Hermansson sees this, that he's getting his opponents frustrated, he just continues to do more and more of it. I think this is a really close fight. I don't like the time off for Hermansson at all. This one is another tough one, as I think Hermansson can avoid getting hit, clinch, and just frustrate RoboCop. And I also can see RoboCop cutting off the octagon and just hurting Hermansson. It's another tough one. I see clear past the victory for both men, but give me RoboCop in this one. In the next fight, we have Peyton Talbott versus Felipe Lima, the once undefeated phenom versus the dangerous Brazilian newcomer. Peyton Talbot is 26 years old, 9-1, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, coming off a decision loss 5 months ago. He lands 6.73 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.75. His 80% finish rate and is a plus 130 underdog. Felipe Lima is 27 years old, 14-1, 5-0 in his last 5 fights, coming off decision wins 6 months ago. He lands 3.5 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2.32, is a 47% finish rate, and is a minus 150 favorite. This is another exciting matchup on this card between two young, up-and-coming fighters. Peyton Talbott is looking to rebound off that tough loss to Hani Barcelos. Felipe Lima has come into the UFC on a tear and has a lot of momentum right now. Talbott is a long, rangy striker with big power in his hands. We did see in his last fight that his grappling and takedown defense needs to be worked on. Felipe Lima is a striker with some slick submission skills up his sleeve as well. Talbott is much higher output than Lima, landing almost double the amount of significant strikes on the feet. I think Talbott will give Lima some problems on the feet early in the fight. Talbott will also enjoy a 3-inch reach advantage in the fight. Felipe Lima is a much more calculated striker, a little bit better striking defense than Talbott. I wonder if Lima will look to use some grappling here, at least just use it to keep Talbott honest on the feet. If this is purely a kickboxing match, I think Talbott gets it done. I think Lima is going to take some damage on the feet and then look to start using some of his grappling. As we've seen, the takedown defense from Talbott needs some work, and he doesn't really have the ability to get back to his feet once taken down. If Lima uses the same blueprint as Hani Barcelos laid out, he gets the win. I think this is a tougher fight for both men than what people are suggesting. I think Talbott is a very live dog here, but after seeing the issue in Talbott's game, it's hard for me to pick him until I've seen some improvements in his takedown defense and his ability to get back to his feet. So I'm going with Felipe Lima in a close one. In the next fight, we have Boneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts looking to settle the score. Boneil Dariush is 36 years old, 22-6-1, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off a TKO loss 18 months ago. He lands 3.78 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2.65, he has a 45% finish rate and is a plus 130 underdog. Renato Moicano is 36 years old, 26-1, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, coming off a submission loss 5 months ago. He lands 4.36 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.55, he has a 44% finish rate and is a minus 155 favorite. These two were rebooked after their fight at UFC 311 got canceled after Arman Tsarukyan missed weight and Moicano got a title fight. Dariush is coming off a very long hiatus away. Moicano is looking to rebound after getting submitted in the first round by Islam Makhachev. Both men are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts and very comfortable on the ground. Dariush has shown solid takedown defense in the Mateusz Gamrot fight and had a lot of momentum before he ran into Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan. Moicano was on a 4-fight win streak before his fight against Islam on short notice, so both men are kind of in a similar spot. I think this fight is going to take place primarily on the feet, with both men being really good grapplers. I think that's how this one plays out. Moicano lands at a slightly higher rate, but Dariush has a bit more power in his hands, in my opinion. This would be southpaw versus orthodox matchup, so be on the lookout for that rear hand straight power kicks in this matchup. Going through their resume, they both fought some tough competition. For me, I think Dariush's best win was over Gamrot, which is aged pretty well. Moicano's best win, in my opinion, was over Benoit Saint-Denis. This is a tough fight. I think both men can get it done. I think Dariush's most recent losses are the guys that would have beat Moicano as well. I know a lot of people are counting out Dariush, but I think he gets it done here and has good value at plus 130. In the next fight, we have Brandon Royval versus Joshua Van. Flyweight firecrackers expect non-stop action. Brandon Royval is 32 years old, 17-7, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, coming off a decision win 8 months ago. He lands 4.46 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.06, has a 54% finish rate, and is a minus 130 favorite. Joshua Van is 23 years old, 14-2, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, coming off a TKO win 2 weeks ago. He lands 8.2 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 5.26, he has a 56% finish rate, and is a plus 115 underdog. This is the underground main event right here. Potential fight of the night matchup. Brandon Royval is always in fun fights, and Joshua Van is setting the UFC on fire right now. This will be his 9th fight in the UFC since 2023. Van is also taking this fight on very short notice, as he just fought 2 weeks ago. Royval used to fight wild and super crazy, but in his last few fights, he's been much more calculated and just slowed the fights down. Van will be at a 3-inch reach disadvantage and a 4-inch height disadvantage. Walks forward, is very high output, and just literally looks to go to war every single time. Van fights behind his chin, looks to test his opponent's will. This is a big step up in competition for Van and a massive opportunity for him. Like, honestly, if Van gets the win here, he literally is a #1 contender at flyweight. I really like Van. I'm more worried if it's a bit too much too soon for him and too fast. I love the activity, but at what point does it have that negative impact as well? I think being 23 is a big risk worth taking, and Van won't lose anything if he falls short. Royval has been in there with everyone and has all the big fight experience. I just think it's too much too soon for Joshua Van, so I'm going to go with the experience of Brandon Royval. In the co-main event, we have Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara-France for the flyweight title. It's a flyweight title rematch. Can the challenger dethrone the king? Alexandre Pantoja is 35 years old, 29-5, 5-0 in his last 5 fights, coming off a submission win 6 months ago. He lands 4.41 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.92, he has a 56% finish rate, and is a minus 270 favorite. Kai Kara-France is 32 years old, 25-11, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off a KO win 10 months ago. He lands 4.56 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.22, has a 42% finish rate, and is a plus 220 underdog. We have a rematch to their Ultimate Fighter Season 14 fight back in 2016, where Pantoja won by unanimous decision. Both fighters have grown so much since then. I'm sure Pantoja is feeling confident already, having a win over Kai Kara-France. Kai Kara-France is looking to prove that he's actually the better fighter and that he's gotten better. Pantoja is a brawler and a Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner. Pantoja uses forward pressure, fights behind his chin, look to get the fight to the ground and submit his opponents or just control them. Kai Kara-France is a striker with some legit power in his hands for a flyweight. I think this is a much more dangerous fight than what some people realize. Pantoja does get hit in his fights. He does have one of the best chins in the division. You can tell he believes in it by the way he fights. Kai Kara-France has been at the top of the division for a while now and wants to finally get over that hump and be a champion. These two men land a similar number of strikes, and Pantoja absorbs slightly more. This fight for me will come down to if Pantoja can get this fight to the ground or if his pressure and pace can slow down. Kai Kara-France on the other side will need to get some respect early in the fight and keep the fight on the feet. Pantoja also likes to get the back while standing, so Kai Kara-France can't relax when they're in the clinch up against the cage, because Pantoja will definitely jump on your back in a heartbeat. I do think Kai Kara-France makes this fight very interesting and makes Pantoja deal with some adversity, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think the will and the grappling of Alexandre Pantoja will be too much, and Pantoja gets it done. Before we get into the main event, like the video and subscribe for more content. In the main event, we have Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira for the lightweight title. History in the making. The undefeated featherweight king Ilia Topuria leaps up to 155 pounds to challenge lightweight legend Charles Oliveira for the undisputed throne. Do we get a double champ, or does Oliveira serve as the destroyer of kings? Ilia Topuria is 28 years old, 16-0, come off a KO win 7 months ago. He lands 4.69 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.84. He has an 88% finish rate and is a -280 favorite. Charles Oliveira is 35 years old, 35-10, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off a decision win 7 months ago. He lands 3.4 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.21. He has a 69% finish rate and is a +230 underdog. Ilia Topuria gets to make his return to lightweight after becoming champion at featherweight. And welcome to his new division is the UFC all-time leader in finishes, Charles Oliveira. This is a very fun and exciting matchup. Charles Oliveira is the most decorated submission artist in UFC history. Both men are finishers and look to finish the fight. Both men are very well-rounded. Topuria is originally a grappler and has married that with some of the best boxing in the UFC. He rips his combinations to the body and to the head, and they're absolutely brutal. Oliveira marries Muay Thai with elite Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. It's a similar skill set between the two of them, but packaged very differently. Oliveira uses kicks, boxing, knees in a clinch, and just constantly improving wrestling and smooth Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu submissions. Ilia primarily uses boxing, the occasional leg kick, and just solid grappling. Oliveira will enjoy a 5-inch reach advantage and a 3-inch height advantage. I think the key for Oliveira in this fight will be using side kicks to the lead leg of Ilia, outside leg kicks to Ilia's lead leg as well, teeps to the body, and some head kicks. The key for Ilia for me will be to get on the inside of Oliveira's kicks and unleash those nasty combinations. I think Ilia will be slightly faster. Oliveira hasn't fought like he did when he was on his championship run, where he would just overwhelm guys with his pressure and pace and the brawling and just eat massive shots. I think that's when he looked his best, but that's not the style I think he needs in this matchup. For me, Oliveira would need to stay composed, keep Ilia at range. Ilia on the other side needs to continue what he's been doing, just outboxing his opponents and looking to land the heavier shots. How will Ilia Topuria's power translate at lightweight? In his previous fight at lightweight, he got dropped by a head kick by Jai Herbert and rallied to knock out Jai Herbert in the very next round. Both men have been in title fights and have big fighting experience. This would be a legacy-defining fight between two great fighters. I'm gonna go with Ilia Topuria here. I think Charles Oliveira will fight well and show he's still one of the best fighters in the world. I can see this being an absolute crazy fight, but I'm just gonna go with Ilia Topuria. If you made it this far in the video, I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think in the comments. You know I love it when you tap in. Questions, comments, thoughts, and your feedback is always welcome. And as always, until next time.